Hey, hello everyone. Thank you for joining. After a long time, today I got some time to come live. And thanks for all of your requests for doing a live. And finally, happy to be here. So, first of all, welcome everyone to today's live to tapaScript. Thanks to all of you who have been supporting this channel uh, by a lot of motivation, comments, like, subscription. Thanks to my members. Recently started growing a little bit. I would definitely expect more. So yeah, if you want to join this channel as a member, support it further, almost welcome. So please do that. So today's session, today we are diving into things around career. So in the last live, we spoke mostly about the web development, JavaScript, the 40 days of JavaScript initiative that is going on. But today I thought, okay, let's change the gear a little bit. Let's talk about career. Let's talk about tech career. And while we're talking about tech career, let's take it from beginner to the senior level. And while talking about the tech career, there are multiple things comes. Of course, you will definitely be curious about AI, remote learning, remote working, AI powered world and all these things. But of course, along with that thing or beside those things, there are multiple other things that you need to keep in mind if you want to be successful in your tech career or you want to even start your tech career, right? Becoming successful is later. So today we are going to talk about mostly on the mindset, skills, of course, AI, the job trends, how to stay relevant, everything. One disclaimer, all the opinions that I'll be putting in front of you are mine. However, if there are any resemblance or any contradictions, those will be purely accidental. So let's start today's discussion with the topic of current landscape, basically the job landscape. Let's start with that. And then we will talk about the rise of AI, where exactly it is helping, how to embrace it, and all these things. Of course, we're going to take the question, whether AI is replacing jobs. Definitely take that. Then we will talk about each of the career level, like from beginner, mid-level, senior, and what are the mindset required, how you can actually tackle setbacks, how you can be prepared so that your career grow, what are the things that you can do, how you keep alive your side hustles, what are the things to do. We'll talk a little bit about open source and all these things. So that's the whole agenda. And at any point in time you can comment if you have any questions. Time to time I look into the question box and I'll try to answer those questions. If I can't answer everything, I'll make sure that I come back later and answer your questions. And at any point in time, if you want to support me with any kind of perks, super thanks, and everything, you're most welcome. All right. So let's start about the current landscape or the job market. Uh, there are plenty of speculations around it, right? Some people say startups are booming. Some folks say layoffs are all-time high. There are many people says that their job is almost like frozen in the MNCs. There are some opinion about startups are still hiring, but they're hiring probably only devs. They're not hiring the QE. They're hiring the developers who are doing the QE. Plus, they are also doing the DevOps job. So there are always mixture of roles. There are mixture of speculations that are around. Now, I want to put forward my points from the side of an employer, not an employee, because I have a startup now. I have been doing this for last couple of years. I've been recruiting people. I've been looking into the market. I've been looking into the customer side of it, the work side of it, and trying to connect the dots, whenever I have an opportunity. So from that perspective, if I see, I think there is a good amount of shift that all of you probably know towards the hybrid and the remote first roles, right? Today, the world is really moving towards remote first. It is a desire, even from the hiring point of view also. Many small to mid-scale organizations are even preferring that, the remote first. The MNCs are going towards hybrid. Some of them are always like, come to office and work. We cannot really talk about them, that. But most of it is like mostly hybrid and the remote first. That's the mindset, both from the employer and the employee point of view. Of course, when you talk about it, you talk about companies that hire globally, and they can hire the talent from everywhere. From the employer point of view and from the employee point of view, they get an opportunity to work in any global company, right? That is there for. So now to get into this job market, there are two sides of it. The very positive side of it, the market is open. It means that it is remote first. So if you are in some location, some country, some state, you really don't need to travel in another state or another country to do the job that you really desire for. You can be at your place and you can do the job. So that's a very positive side of it. From the employer point of view also, is like, I don't have to really spend a lot of travel for you, that you have come there. I don't have to worry about what is your accommodations and all these things. You just deliver your work and I'm happy with that. But another side of it, that of this equation, especially from the employer side of it, like we need to take care of a lot of trust starting from the interview itself, because eventually found out that there are a lot of things happening which are like really fake. Either the employer is fake or employee is faking while the interview, and at a later point in time there are a lot of problems to solve, like how this happened, whether the right tools were used to do this conduct this interview, and ultimately the impact is on the employee, right? They tend to lose job, they tend to lose trust and all these things. So one thing would be is like, whenever you are getting ready for such remote first role, you need to make sure that you are preparing enough to clear your interview as much as ethically possible. And I'm just talking this one, it may not sound very good to many of people, like why I'm talking about this, but this is really matter. I'm talking about it because many of the beginners may have a tendency of taking a shortcut. But what happens is, like, if you read the news, these things are very much catchable now. When it started, the remote first roles, the remote interviews and all, there were some gaps that were difficult to identify, but right now those gaps are really bridging. It is very easy to identify, like, what you were before the interview happened and what you are once you came in. So that matching is very important, right, when you are playing a role. So make sure that happen. Increase your focus on building your portfolio, contributions and the problem solving. Because right now, I think just degree, it is not right now, probably a few years back, since few years back, it's not just degree is enough. Okay, like I belong to India. Here the degree matters a lot, especially from college degree, it matters a lot. So you should have degree, but it is like the degree is not the only thing that is driving you to get job. You need to have a good portfolio, you need to have a good community contributions. I'm going to talk about what is community contributions, how you can actually increase those, and of course the problem solving skill. I think without this, even if you have a very solid degree, even if you have like 9.0 GPA or whatever it is, or more than that, I don't think that that's going to matter a lot to many of the good companies if you are lacking all these things. So this is what I think. As an employer, I look into the job market trends, from your educational background, from your portfolio side of it, your problem solving capability side of it. Now, let's talk about some of the roles that are there and also like evolving, right? And some of these roles are there for ever, and I'm sure like those are going to be there, upcoming days also, upcoming years also. So, for example, front end developer. Now, of course, we can get into the argument of AI is developing front end. If you give a prompt, prompt is generating the entire UI. All these things are fine. I mean, it's very good to hear, very good to get the goosebump. But let's park them for a moment, right? Let's talk about many of the startups. Let's talk about many of the MNCs. Let's talk about many of the mid-level companies which still recruit front-end developers or full-stack developers. So this role is something that is there, is going to be there, front-end and the full-stack developer. DevOps engineers, definitely going to be there, and it is, of course, one of the very crucial role nowadays that we are identifying. Platform engineers, AI ML integration devs. So when we say AI ML integration devs, it means that you are a front-end developer or a full-stack developer. Now there is a service which provides certain use case based on AI. There might be certain APIs, and you can integrate that with the front end or with the back end, or wherever the use case comes into picture, right? So you are somebody who might not know the intricacies or the internal of AI and ML that much, but you are somebody who can really integrate that particular piece and make the things work, right? So that's something that we always look forward nowadays. Developer advocates is one of the role that's probably boomed a lot in last few years, and I see a lot of opportunity, because the more number of tools come out, the more number of developer tools come out, especially, the developer advocates are required. And again, there are also some amount of misconception like what are developer advocates supposed to do and what actually they are doing. I know some of the developer advocates personally that they are really superb. They really know the meat of it. They know the actual internals of the tools, not only from the use case point of view, also from the technical point of view. So when they talk about those tools to someone else, they talk really deep from the technical point of view, from their real use case point of view. They just don't, they should not just sound like a salesman or marketing guy. The word developer is very important in the developer advocates role, so that they understand the pinpoint, they understand the technicality of it, and they actually project that. So definitely this is something been there, and I guess that it will be there, coming days as well. Web3 still exists, but in specific niches. Web3 is there, it probably will be there as well. So very high level, I think I deal with these roles, and these are the roles I feel that is still in demand. It's going to be in demand. Okay, why didn't I talk about somebody who can build prompts? Why didn't I talk about somebody who can build an AI agent? Why didn't I talk about somebody who can actually build certain algorithms? Yeah, of course, these are the roles that are really evolving right now. A person who can build AI agent, a person who can actually work on AI as a niche area, they are definitely actually coming up as some of this new job role. But the things that I was talking about is more about the generic job roles that were there, and it's going to continue. I'll be coming to some of this AI stuff in my coming sections, and we'll talk more about that. And the last thing from the job landscape, if I have to talk about, is maybe let's talk about like how do you find or where do you look into some of these remote jobs, because we're talking about the software job market is shifting towards hybrid to remote first. So what are those areas that you can find remote jobs, and what can help you, right? Now, if I tell you that, okay, these are the 2-3 things that you do, you are going to find a remote job, I'll be lying. And anybody telling you that will be lying. It's up to you whether you go with that lie or not. The fact would be is like for any job, you need to be there, right? You need to be prepared for that job, whether that's a remote job, remote work, non-remote work, hybrid work, doesn't matter. But of course, there are certain platforms that can push you towards those job finding or the job opening, and then you can see whether those job finding and the job opening are something that connects to you, that relevant to you. Are you prepared for that? You apply, and then things goes as usual, right? But there is no right mantra that someone is giving you, and you get that mantra in you, and you're ready for remote work next day. It's not like that, right? So there are platforms like remote job platform itself, like remote okay. There is something called arc.dev. There is something called lemon.io. I'm going to put all this link in the description of this live once the live is getting over. So you can find all this link. You can come to the description. There is something called We Work Remotely. So there are plenty of platforms available which list out these jobs, the remote jobs in front of you, which you can look into and try to match whether it is matching with your portfolio, matching with your skill. Is there something you can apply for? And you can go for it, right? This platform helps. Apart from that, there are certain organic platforms like LinkedIn. It helps in certain ways if you know to use it in better ways, right? So, for example, how and what kind of connections that you have built in the LinkedIn, right? If you are someone who has connection with a CEO, a CTO, or a person who is working in a startup, mid-level companies, or in an MNC, and you can ask for a reference whenever there is a job opportunity. You have a upper hand of getting a lead from LinkedIn. The phrase I use, if you can ask for. Why I use that phrase, that if you can ask for, because not everyone is capable of asking for, hey, can you get me a reference? Because if I don't know the value that you can provide, why should I refer you? Unless you are my close relative or very close friend. In LinkedIn, you generally don't have your close relative and close friend. For that, you have to go to Facebook or Instagram. LinkedIn is a professional network where a person has to know you, how relevant you are to the technology, and why I should refer you. And if that person know that why I should refer you, and if you have that confidence, then only you can ask that person. So building that credibility on a platform like LinkedIn is immensely important. So for finding a job, for finding a work, I think building that capability is something that you need to be taking up very seriously. Like either through content that you create, or either through project that you do, or either through your journey in your career or in your learning path that you project in front, or you put everything in, on your GitHub profile, and you can quickly supply to someone asking that, okay, this is what I have done, or your portfolio speak about it, or your project speak about it. So those are the things, like building a public profile using GitHub, using LinkedIn, or using a portfolio, so that you can ask someone, to refer you, makes a lot of sense. And I would also kind of request you, like, if you can learn some of these asynchronous communication tools. I think nowadays everyone should learn, whether he's a developer, she is a developer, or a marketing person, or somebody doing something technical. They should learn some of the asynchronous tool like Notion to use of it. Maybe how to use Loom to create something very quickly, a video, an idea, 5 minutes talk, 2 minutes talk, 3 minutes talk to send to someone. How to use Slack, so these are some of the tools that you need to know, you need to learn, so that you can use them whenever there is a time come. So this is the first section of today's live, is talking about the current landscape, what you need to really keep in mind. Again, I might not be touch basing everything, but whatever coming in my mind, whatever I'm aware, and I think that I should be talking about, I just spoke about it. Now I go to the next section, which is like the AI and the development part of it. But before that, let me take a look into the comment section if there is a comment that I can take up, and I'll come back. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so yeah, I'm good. How are you? There is a question. Yeah, so tell something about the automation tester, how to learn about Java, Python. Yeah, coming to that, I'll be talking about each of these level, like senior, mid, and everything. I'll be talking about these roles. Um, okay, out of context question. Any plans for after 40 days of JavaScript? After 40 days of JavaScript, I'll be starting some number of days of design patterns along with React. So that's my plan, because when we are learning React, maybe from the beginner level itself, when we just started touching React, maybe started just understanding someone's code, taking it and making things work. I think that's the right time when somebody can start digesting design patterns. They don't have to really go to the mid level or the senior level to start understanding design patterns. They must be using design patterns already. They just don't know that these are some of the design pattern, and if they know how to reuse it in the multiple locations. So my next initiative will be, I don't know how many days, maybe 18 days of design patterns, and I'll see after that. I have some plans to create some short videos on AI terminologies, because when I'll be talking about this beginner section in a while, I'll be talking about the how why it is important today to know some of the AI terminologies, so that you can talk about those terminologies to someone, or you can understand when somebody is taking those terminologies at home, is not taking, now not really asking about rocket science. This is something very usual, right? How can you gain that confidence? So I have some plans to create some shorts about the AI terminology. So these are the plans. All depends on how much time I get. Definitely try to create. Okay, so I'm learning front end. I'm finished with HTML, CSS currently. Okay, so fine. Just hold on. We'll talk about this. Second year student learning full stack developer. Okay, 7 months. Okay, I'm a front end developer with experience of 10 months. What will be my next step? Income? Yeah, great question. So all these questions that you have asked, just hold on, because I'm going to go to the career level based sections. I think we'll be getting more answer for that. After that, we'll discuss more. Okay, so let's talk about the rise of AI development and AI in development. Both the things. I think both the things are pretty important to talk about. You probably already know, like, we have been discussing this topic probably for last 3 years, 2 to 3 years, right? Is AI replacing devs? And initially, I think when we were exploring or trying to understand what AI can do, we were saying, no, AI is not replacing devs. I'm telling a couple of years back. We had, say, ChatGPT in its very rudimentary version. We had things which are already doing, like AI tool, maybe Grammarly, if people use it, right? Some tools we are already using. But impact on the developer life or the developer life cycle directly, whatever it is today, maybe a couple of years back, it was not that high. So we were saying, no, AI is not going to replace devs. If you ask the same question every year, I'm sure that you're going to get a different version of that answer. Today, if you ask me, I'll say, yes, it's going to replace devs. It's going to replace devs, the devs who don't adapt to AI. That's my answer. I don't know what will be the answer 2 years or 3 years down the line, because the transition itself is so radical that if we are just sitting on couch and eating chips and thinking whether AI is going to take my job, I think it's certainly going to take your job. There's no doubt about that. So AI is definitely going to replace devs if devs are not really adapting AI. So what does it mean, the adoption of AI? Let's talk about that. But before that, how AI is changing the workflow. Let's talk about for the folks who are just getting started, with their development journey, or they have been doing development journey, but they are now a bit serious about what AI is capable of, what AI is doing, and how it influences their dev life. So, how AI is changing this workflow? We all know GPTs, right? GPTs are helping in generating content, writing documentation, exploring APIs, helping with debugging to some extent. Designer uses Figma AI nowadays to do a lot of stuff. From Figma design, there's some developers start writing boilerplate code, or maybe the test cases, or even the pull requests, right? That is also possible. Copilot today speeds up repetitive coding. You have Cursor, helping you out with so-called vibe coding. So there are a lot of things that happening which impact the workflow directly. Now, from the day one of programming, what has been told or taught. Okay, my day one started 20 years back. So I'll tell you, from 20 years back, what has been taught in programming is don't memorize syntax. That's the first rule I think I heard, from my mentor. When I was programming in C++, don't memorize syntax. Syntax is something that you can look into the book, because probably internet was not that high that time. You can understand from books. Then when internet came that high, like Stack Overflow, everything was booming. You can copy from them. Now you can take from ChatGPT, right? So if you don't memorize syntax, so that means that some portion of your brain is now khali, is empty to utilize for something. So that portion of the brain try to utilize on how to solve problems, how to communicate with tools like AI tools, how to do logic building, right? Now, this particular thing has not been changed with or without AI. You still need to know how to solve problem. You still need to know how to read a portion of the code to identify what problem it solves. You still need to know how to debug it. You still need to know how to ask the right question. Before, you used to ask the right question to an expert, and depending on that expert's availability, could be your mentor, could be your teacher, could be your senior. Now you can communicate that with an AI tool. That's the change, right? And it is more affordable to you. It means that it's there all the time with you, most of it for free. So anywhere you stuck, you can ask to that AI tool effectively to get what you want. Similarly, maybe 10 years back, you used to ask to a senior who used to give it what you want. But even after getting that, it is up to you to understand. It is up to you to maintain. It is up to you to debug. It is up to you to deploy and deliver. That hasn't changed. So what has changed is, like, you can be more productive today. You can be delivering things much more faster today, but you still need those things. You don't have to memorize syntax even today, but you still need to understand fundamentals. So again, coming back to, is AI replacing your devs? Yes, it is replacing the devs if you are weak in fundamentals, plus you don't adopt AI, right? Now there are few more things, right? There are plenty of useful tools. Like if you're a beginner, you can start with GitHub Copilot. There is Cursor, ChatGPT, of course, we cannot deny it. Once you go to the mid-level, you can start using tools like Codium. You can start using AI-powered linters. Those things you can actually start bringing in. If you're more senior person, we'll be looking into the tools which are AI tools for the DevOps. Some of the peer review bots, maybe observability tools. Those are the senior people that will be looking into. But again, each of these tools requires some amount of intervention to understand what it delivers and how are you going to maintain this for the long term, right? So please don't forget that part, because many of us listen to many things and get very scared, like whether whatever I'm learning today, I'm learning these fundamentals, I'm spending time in learning these fundamentals, whether it will be any use for me, or maybe tomorrow somebody getting someone, a robot from somewhere, calling that robot to code this one, and the robot will deliver, what will happen to me? We are still working. I'm still hiring. Work is still going on, right? So if you are thinking today and at the same time in parallel, if the work is going on the way that it used to happen before, why are you thinking? If there are another radical movement coming tomorrow, which says that, okay, there are certain ways that we have to think about coding, you have to adapt to it. Today adapt with ChatGPT, today adapt with GitHub Copilot, today adapt with Codium, on every other things. But don't sacrifice fundamentals. Don't sacrifice problem solving skill. Don't sacrifice debugging skill. Because if you sacrifice them, world's best AI tool given to you will be of no use, right? So it's a mixture of that. That's the answer for today. After 1 year, 2 years, if the same question asked, maybe the answer can change. But today this is the answer, so go for it. So that's about the AI in development. So let's get into now each of the career level. Like let's start with beginner. Beginner means say 0 to 1 year experience, 0 to 1 to 2 years experience. Somebody who may be already in college, school, studying, want to get into the development, programming, technical aspect of it. I'm talking about that portion of the people, or just join an organization, just started learning things like how things work, looking into the seniors, trying to understand, oh, how they are working on, how am I going to deliver, okay? And while talking about each of this level, I'm really not putting any kind of scale where who is smart versus who is dumb, because that's not my job, and I cannot really tell that, because to some people I'm very smart, to other people I'm very dumb, right? It's a subjective matter. So don't really think yourself in a position, hey, I am very smart or I am very dumb, because somebody else might be thinking differently for you. It's always like how you think of yourself in terms of what is your caliber and what you can build next, right? That's what it matters. So for beginner, I think we'll start with something like a goal, like what kind of goal a beginner should have. If you're a fresher, or if you're just getting to an organization, or just got into an organization, just getting accustomed with things, what I expect from a beginner. What I expect from a beginner is, like, the beginner will build strong habits, good habits, of course, strong good habits. What are those good habits? Communication. Will be able to communicate. What does its communication mean? Not only English. It's about, hey, I'm stuck in this place. How can I move forward? You have given me this. I can deliver this in next 2 days instead of 1 day. Okay, I can do this by this time. This is one level of communication. It's like whomever you're talking to, that person is also aware, because that person is also answerable to someone else. So if you bridge that gap, you are actually helping. So be that good beginner, okay, good fresher. Build the strong habits of communication, and there are a few other mindset and habits we're going to talk about. Then the real understanding of things, that should be your goal. Building good habits, real understanding of things, not just falling to a tutorial whenever there is a problem comes. You should not be reactive, you should be proactive, in a sense. Like, if a problem is given to me, of course I may not know. As a beginner, it is not really expected that you know everything. If someone is saying that they expect you to learn everything and come, I mean, that person is actually dreaming, or maybe some amount of stupidity around, right? You are a beginner, you should be given some cushion that so that you learn. But at the same time, the turnaround time for you should be faster enough and realistic enough so that it works for both ways, right? And it can only happen when you have real understanding of the things. If a problem is given to you, make sure you understand the problem. If you don't understand, ask. Get clarity. Don't always think that, okay, if I get something, I have a chat GPT, I have tutorials, I have something, and I'll somehow make it up. That mindset is going to push you down, actually. It might work for 1, 2, 3 instances, but there will be instances where you will see that you're not scaling up, actually. So as a beginner, the goal is to build strong habits, have real understanding. Don't bank on just tools and tutorials blindly. Okay. Now, what to learn as a beginner? Definitely focus on logic building. This is one thing without which logic building and the problem solving is very, very difficult, very, very hard to move forward in the programming world, right? So you have to build it. You have to practice logic building. You have to practice problem solving. Focus on learning programming fundamentals. I think these are the things probably you already know, but my duty is to recap it here. Programming fundamentals, irrespective of the stack you are picking up. So, for example, if you're in the web stack, which I relate myself more with, you will be starting with the fundamentals of JavaScript, for example, right? Modern JavaScript. You will be learning about HTML. You will be learning a bit about CSS, whatever is relevant for you to get started. But make sure those fundamentals are something that you are spending time to learn. It is very important. Last couple of years, the focus on fundamentals have reduced. There are articles, the measure of it. There are polls. It has been reduced drastically, but the impact of it is not positive, it's negative. You have to have good fundamental knowledge and spend your initial couple of years to gain that, right? A dedicated time for doing this fundamentals, right? If you're in some other stack, it actually same, right? It could be anything else. I'm just talking about maybe web stack at this point of time, where you start with JavaScript, CSS, HTML, all those things. Along with that, there are a few things which are, I think, common across stack. Like you have to have good knowledge about version control tool, like Git, for example, GitHub. Those things you have to learn. And I'm very happy to see many folks, even the school level today, are very proficient with it. Maybe some amount of credit goes to their true involvement to open source world. I have seen those folks. They're very good at it. If you are not, I would say that definitely pick that as a habit to use GitHub, even for any project you do, any code you write. Make sure that you are using it locally, those GitHub thing, right? And then if your job demands, definitely start with a library. Like, if again in the web world, it could be React, Vue, or anything. But I don't think that in the first couple of years, nobody really expecting you to be a grand expert on any of those library and the framework. But you should have an understanding. That's the thing I told in the goal, right? The real understanding. You should be having the understanding of what is this library doing, or what is this particular framework doing to start with, right? You should have an idea of APIs, even if you don't know how to develop it, but you should know what it does. How to, if you are a person who is working on the front end, how to connect to the back end world. How to connect to different services. What exactly API does. You have to know all these things. Of course, you have to know about the code editors. If you are not using Cursor or anything else, if you are just typing and coding, you are not a Vibe coder, you should know code editor like VS Code. You should know browser dev tools, so start using, right? This is the expectation from a person who is a beginner, 0 to 2 years, 0 to 1 years experience, right? And of course, need to have an understanding of how web works at a very high level. How web works, a good portion of it, if you are from the computer science background, is already taught in computer networking. Already some of these terminologies of different layers, how the things work, but you will know more, once you start exploring them. Different things, right? Nowadays, everybody is having their portfolio website. Everybody, do some portfolio coding and push them to Vercel, Netlify. You do the domain mapping and all these things. Now, if you can't answer like how DNS works or what is domain, that's a setback, right? Because you are already doing all these things. Even before you get into a company, you have your portfolio, your own domain, own site, most of you. So you should know like how it works. What is this domain mapping happening? What is the certificate that it push, from Netlify or Versal, where it goes. So this curiosity this is going to help you really long run. And I was talking about the AI terminologies, right? Now here is the shift. If we are doing this live 3 years back, I would not have taken this portion. Like, hey, you need to know some of these AI terminologies as a beginner. But I think like today it is kind of essential where you are aware of some terminologies. You don't have to really aware of how things work internally. It is not at all expected from you. Nobody is going to ask unless you are somebody who is very enthusiastic. I know people who are very enthusiastic. They're at the fresher level, there is a beginner level. Their mindset is only about doing things in AI. Perfect. But if it is not for you, still please know some of the terminologies. For example, what is LLM? When people talking about generative AI, what is generative AI? Okay, someone is talking about AI hallucination. What is this? Somebody is talking about prompt engineering. What is this prompt engineering? Is there a degree for prompt engineering? Okay, what it is, right? NLP, what it is. So some of this terminology, if you at least know the terminology, what people are talking about, because you will be working with seniors, you will be working with mid-level people in your office or outside, maybe on LinkedIn you are connected to someone. If those people are throwing these terminologies, you are not going to be blanked out. You are now understanding, oh, it's talking about the hallucination, AI hallucination. Okay, this is what it is. It's talking about bias. Okay, maybe this is what it is. Talking about prompt engineering. Oh, okay, this is what it is. So it means that you are now capable of continue that conversation with a person who is probably working deep in the AI, and you are able to catch based on those terminologies and able to connect with them. So that's the advantage of knowing the terminologies as a beginner. So if you're not doing, I would definitely suggest that you start doing it, because it's going to benefit you a lot. So these are the things like what to learn as a beginner. I would suggest you to kind of focus on it. You must be building some of this project if you're someone who is looking for job and trying to apply job. You need to show to your portfolio, right? We spoke about it, like what to show in portfolio. You need to show, you can build basic apps like your portfolio site, maybe with GitHub pages or some of the libraries or framework that you have learned. Some of these applications like maybe some small games, or maybe an application like as simple as weather app, all those things, right? Where you can connect to an API, can do something, or connect to an API AI service and can do something. So those kind of things that you can definitely try as a project to build at a minimum. If you want to go beyond, yeah, it's up to you, right? Nobody is stopping, sky is the limit. So these are the projects that you can actually think of building. Make sure that you know how to use ChatGPT. Make sure that you know how to use some of the code focused search tools, maybe Copilot, all these things. You know how to use this, right? And some of the mindset, I would say, to have, learn to be respectful um, as a beginner. Because as a fresher, as a beginner, if you don't learn to be respectful, I think you are never going to learn it in your life, right? Um, some of you may know that some of the incidents happened very recently in last couple of days around this Google Summer of Code. There are some people, went really agitated, used very abusive language. They're all over the social media, right? So it there might be multiple occasions that will trigger you, and it will trigger you because you may not know all the facts, or sometime it will trigger you, maybe there is definitely some injustice, it can be anything. But be respectful, learn to be respectful, learn to be collaborative, right? Learn to accept some of the setbacks. What if it didn't happen to you right now? It's fine, you will try it again. So that's the mindset, I think, is very very useful than just trying to push it very hard, you know after you failed, after the setback happened, being agitated, insulting people, not being respectful. Internet is not really a very big area. Actually, I think internet is a very small world. Today something come out on internet, it takes a few seconds for somebody else to come to know, and then understand the fact or speculate things and judge you. And you cannot stop that. It is not your neighbor whose house you can go and tell, hey, why are you thinking about it this way? It is not that. It is something that you cannot do anything. So if your behavior is certain ways, in the internet, you are going to pay that price. That's what I'm saying. So we have seen enough incidents before, recently, maybe we'll be seeing in future also. So my advice to you will be very clear, is like, learn to be respectful, learn to accept your failure, setbacks, and learn to be collaborative. Of course, learn in public, in the sense is like, whatever you are doing, the project you are doing, the things you are learning. I was talking about the LinkedIn as a platform. Please make use of it, to show what you are doing, what you are building, right? Without worrying much about who is looking into it. I think most of the time we get lost, or we lose the energy thinking, hey, who is looking into it, man? I'm posting every day, right? If you do something consistently, you don't have to be perfect, people will notice. And that consistent, like how long it takes to be consistent, it matters. Nobody can tell like how long. Some people it is like 15 days, 1 month, 2 months, it takes time. But if you are there before you completely know the reason, the very valid reason to give up, that is something only you will know. Nobody is going to tell you. Before you know a very valid reason to give up, I will say that be consistent with this learning in public. That's going to really, really help you. Again, you don't have to be perfect. Don't have to be perfect. You don't have to make a great visual. You don't have to think that this is completely error free. No, do what you do what you learn, do what you know. That's what is required, right? So have that mindset. Don't fear bugs as a beginner, I will say to everyone, because if you start fearing bugs, or starting to think too much about bugs, I think that's going to lead you to some other kind of trauma. uh, you don't fear bugs, learn to debug. you know if you don't want to fear bugs, you have to learn to debug. So you have to know how to use, if you're on the web side of it, you have to know how to use the dev tools, or in your editor how to debug things. Those are things that you have to learn. There are plenty of resources to teach you. There's no dearth of resources. We already spoke about how to use AI as a tool. Now I'm telling you those indicators, like what you need to focus on so that you can use those tools appropriately in your advantage, right? So learn to debug, be consistent, learn in public, see long term. So those are the things I'll say, like as a mindset that a beginner should have, right? So before I move to mid-level and senior talking about it, let me go back and start taking again few questions and see like what are the things I can answer. Let's see. Quick questions. Okay, I'm learning front end. I have finished with HTML, CSS. Currently learning with videos, my videos also. Nice explanation. So okay, this is not a question. It's a thanks. So thank you very much for doing that. Second year student learning to be full stack front end developer with the experience of 10 months. What will be my next step for in coming 5 years? So if you already spent 10 months, you are already in that beginner phase, you will be in the beginner phase for some more time. So definitely give that time. What are the things that I told just now as a beginner? At the phase of say 0 to 2 years, that particular phase, focus on these things, build your portfolio, do projects, right? Learn those things that I told you. It will be useful, right? Then you think about like what to do as a mid level. I'm going to talk about mid and senior level in a minute. Okay, Harini is saying that I'm 4 years experience full stack developer based on React.js, started attending interviews. I'm having less hands-on project. Can you explain what kind of project, can you explain what and how to improve hands-on? Yeah, so the way that you improve hands-on, there are multiple opportunities actually. So one is of course building the project, and for building project, you don't have to be really creative. If you know to use a tool like ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT, go straight away. Like, I have this, you build up a prompt, like I have this much years of experience and this is my stack. Can you suggest me some project that I can build using so and so stack? There is no shame and there's to ask this question. Always you should ask this question, right? I told you the example. 10 years, 15 years before, I had to wait for a senior to come or a mentor to come so that I can ask this question. Today I have a tool to ask this question. So this is a great thing. Now, once you get this, that list of it, like, these are the things that you need to learn. I have few projects for mid and senior level. I'm going to discuss about that. Then you have to think about like how to break it into different use cases. So for example, if I want to build a social network website with authentication and data retention. So let's say this is my website, or this is the tool that I'm going to build. For this thing to build, what are the things you need? That is something that you need to note down. Then you have to start building the things into pieces. You have to test the thing into pieces and you have to integrate it. Now, doing some of this project, maybe just couple of projects, is going to give you enough hands-on, because each of the project are having so many different layers on it. You are learning about authentication, you are learning about building APIs, you are learning about how to connect to a database, maybe an NoSQL database. You are learning about making your UI responsive. You are learning about solving the customer use cases. So all these 5-6 things that you're learning in one project, it is quite repetitive for another use case. So I would say, as a 4 years experience, you should definitely thought about doing more projects in the sense, not like number, maybe couple of projects having this different kind of layers and the use cases without sacrificing your fundamental learning or the fundamental aspect of it. So that would be my answer. You definitely need to have some of these projects in your portfolio. Okay, please talk about remote opportunities for developer. I spoke about it already, given you some of the website and some of the ways to go about it. I have 1 year and 7 months experience in Node.js working. Should I go to front end, stick to back end, learn new framework? Okay, so this is a very common question. Like, I have this much experience, what I should do next? And the answer to the question is depending on what is your current circumstances. Are you working somewhere where learning a particular technology will give you a growth so that you can go to the next career level? I would say that yes, you should learn that, right? So the answer is very subjective, this question. Or you think that that is not something that you are chasing. You are more of a technology evangelist and you want to pick up what is the next trendy technology and you want to learn on that. Or you have some backend thing, now you want to spread across full stack. So find out the reason, like why you want to learn the things next, and based on that reason you pick up something. If you want to be someone who wants to be in the full stack next time, you already know about Node.js. You can actually not only develop APIs, you can work with the IO operations and many other things, right? You can now focus on doing the UI. You can now start doing full stack. That way you can actually move. So it all depends, like what is that next milestone, why you want to do it, and then actually pick that up. Okay, if you take away all the hype, user numbers and community size, the JS front-end framework is actually the best. Not all things are best. I mean, overall. Yeah, see, the thing is, like, which JS framework is actually the best? I can actually talk about, okay, let's not talk about from numbers. If I talk about the numbers, the adoption and all, maybe after jQuery and all, now React is really there and is there in many projects. Let's try to benchmark it from the use case point of view. Are you looking for something which is event driven? Because your project require that. You need a lot of real-time feeds. You need to update your UI whenever something changes on the server. That's the technology you are looking for. So that means that now you will be looking into a section of the library or the framework and do a comparison between them and pick from there, right? Or you are looking for something which is like reduce lot of boilerplate of JavaScript, CSS, HTML, and making compartment or the components. And it is also fast. Not only the UI that you are developing is fast, it's also the DX, the developer experience itself is so good. Now there are section of libraries over there that you have to choose from, right? Personally, I am very comfortable with React. So I don't want to talk about React because now most of you know, like, the React is almost omnipresent. There is of course Angular, there is of course Vue. After React, if something that I go for always is Vue. That's again a personal choice because the projects that I have executed apart from React was on Vue because of its very, very clear approach. It's based on template and very clear. You really don't have a very stiff learning curve when you're actually getting started with it. It's pretty simple. If someone is coming from the HTML, CSS, JavaScript background, they know to build some portion of the UI some way. I think starting with Vue.js is really, really faster, and understanding like how to bind certain things. That way I would say that React and Vue from the library side of it is good in terms of regular libraries are the framework that I'm looking into. But again, if I'm looking into something little bit offbeat, like, event driven, that kind of thing, I'll be looking into a different stack of things and then I'll be selecting from there. So that's how I'll be answering. If I'm not looking into just hype, I'll be looking into what is the use case and who exactly coming up over there. Okay, how should we use AI as a beginner in the work on the project where we should use the AI in the amount of my foundation? Okay, React.js doing MERN projects and I resolve error using ChatGPT. Okay, if I answer your question, Ravi Shankar, correctly, what you're asking is like, as a beginner, how are you going to use AI? Yeah, I think I have given that answer, but just repeating it very quickly. You should use AI as a tool who can help you to unblock. As simple as that. And it's not only beginner, I think everybody should use it as a tool like that. But if your expectation is a customer problem, AI is going to debug, solve, giving you the final result which you are copy pasting and going to use it. It might work, but I don't want you to do that because it has a lot of other negative effects that might happen, in future, and sometimes you might be answerable for doing so. So the perspective would be, if you are building something, whether it's a backend, Node.js, React.js, MERN project, if you are stuck, if you got an error, of course, discuss that error with AI, just like thinking that is another knowledgeable person, right? You know to write the prompt. Like, assume that you are 10 years experience in Node.js and look like with this readable stream, I got this exception. Do you know why? What could be the different reasons for these exceptions? And how can I come out of this? Maybe that's your prompt. Now, once you have that prompt, it's going to give you a few version of it. What could work, what probably you can adapt. Now, whatever is working for you, your next job is to learn why it is working. Ask further question. Can you explain this code to me? What is happening here? What is happening there? Do your further reading so that tomorrow a human is asking the same question. Who is your boss, manager, or anybody? You are same way able to give the answer. That's the only ask. I think that's the difference. That's the differentiator. Versus you are blindly committing the code, going home, and next day coming and seeing something else is breaking because of you putting that code, right? So have that mindset. I think that's very important. How do you learn coding without getting stuck in the tutorial hell? So the only way that you can learn coding without getting stuck to tutorial hell is by building. There is no other way. The way that you can come out of tutorial hell is by building things. Okay, so one point over here. Sometimes people take it wrong. If you're going through tutorials are not bad. I myself as a blogger wrote many tutorials. So tutorials are great, which gives you explanation, code snippet, explanation, code snippet, explanation, code snippet. You're following this tutorial, building something. Now, if you just copy paste that code and building the same thing that the tutorial is talking about, you're still in the tutorial hell. Many people don't understand or mistake this statement saying that, if you start building, you come out of tutorial hell. No. If you are following the things that are there in the tutorial, exactly building the same thing, you're still in the tutorial hell. The way to come out of it is to build something else or innovate on top of what exactly tutorial is teaching you. If the tutorial is teaching you like how to use WebSocket or how to use Socket.io with React to build a chat application, you are following step by step to use Stack.io, install it, use React, install it, building the chat API, following exactly. No, you take a diversion, build your own use case, bring your own use case, change things. That is when you will be breaking the tutorial hell, you will be going to somewhere else, you will be learning something new, and again probably be coming back and doing something else. So this is what I would suggest. You can try it out, it might work. Okay, how can you use a problem solving skill? The only way you can use problem solving skill by solving problems. It might sound very cliche, but the thing is, there is no other way, right? If I teach you for 2 hours how to do logic building, and if you're not building logic, those 2 hours goes to drain straight away. No use. If you build the logic along with I'm teaching you and trying things, trying different tasks. That's the reason if you are following 40 days of JS, anybody, that every episode is with task and assignment. That's the whole reason, so that you do problem solving and the logic building, right? So if you do logic build, the way that you do logic building is by building logic. The way you do problem solving by building problem, by solving problem. Take use cases, try to solve problem. You will be stuck. That is the mindset of setback. Take accepting the setback. I told, right? The mindset the beginner should have. You should have. You will be stuck. It's fine, but you have to be, with that. Okay. So I think. I have a question, okay. So I'll come back to these questions again after some time. So let me move forward to the mid-level things from the beginner. So for mid-level, the beginner level, the goal was basically building strong habits, do the real understanding, and not just get into the tutorials, right? From that, the tutorial hell question come into picture. Now let's talk about mid-level. Somebody is like maybe 2 to 5, 2 to 4, 2 to 5 years experience. I think your goal should be in this level, how I see it. You are somebody who is now capable of started building their own features, can write quality code, can collaborate with somebody else very well, right? Let's say that you had started as a beginner, you are in an organization for some time, you have spent a good amount of time by looking into other people's code, taking the inspiration from it, building the stuff, learning a lot of things, solidifying your fundamentals. Now you will be someone who can actually own the feature. When you are building certain application, there will be multiple features in that application, right? So you are someone now can own the feature completely. You are someone who can write quality code because last 2 to 3 years, you would have got enough review comments from your seniors so that you know now what is expected out of you. Okay, so this is what means you are actually started writing quality code. And then the collaboration part of it. Now you are in the mid level, so it means you have to not only collaborate with the people who are at your higher level, because one day you aspire to go there, that's the senior level. You also have to manage now people who are in the lower level, because you were there some years back where you look up to a mid level or the senior level people. Now you are at the mid level, expectation is the junior level people will be looking up to you. So collaboration is something very important, right? What are the things that you focus on? You focus on learning about the application state management. I'm not talking about React alone, okay? Whenever there is an application, mostly let's talk about the front-end application side. You have to manage state. Whenever you are doing the UI, so you have to know like how to do state management. It's a topic that you need to learn. I'm not talking about React, Redux, JStand or anything else. I'm just talking about application state management. Now in this level, you are expected to have deep dive into the library or the framework that you have been working on or you started picking up, right? This is where you are very much able to recognize the patterns, right? With this pattern, you solved an error, before, or taken care of an error or handled an error. And whenever you are starting to code the new feature, you know now to put this pattern upfront so that error handling is already inbuilt in your new feature. You are going to think in that way. You are in that level. Are you getting the point? Before, when you were a beginner, you were solving it. You were doing this error handling. But next time, maybe whenever the error handling is happening, you are again clueless like why it is happening. Then probably somehow you remember, oh, I did it in there. Probably same code I have to copy now. It will work, and it works. But when you're mid-level, expectation is like reading into the feature. When you are thinking the feature implementation, you are thinking through different patterns that you know. to apply them upfront or think about them upfront, right? So that's expectation. You know about implementing APIs. If you are working on that side, a good amount of knowledge in the Node.js and that side of it. Testing, not manual testing, but rather using the testing tools. For example, again on the UI side, I'll say, because I belong to mostly that side, is vtest, um, cypress, things like that, or playwright, today's world, right? Know all this kind of testing tool, to use these testing tools. A bit of CI/CD knowledge, because maybe you are aware of the pipeline established in your workspace, like how people have written that particular GitHub action to do something, what exactly they are inside that action. You may not be from the DevOps background here, but you should be curious, like what is happening, how to run your action, how to attach that action into that pipeline, those things. If you're on TypeScript, you know the basic of TypeScript, at least to use the TypeScripts. You know to use containerizations, for example, Docker, right? A basic DevOps skill I was talking about, containerizations. See, the thing is, today I believe that anybody beyond like this 2 to 3 years experience, in the band of this 2 to 5, 2 to 4 years experience, the containerization is a skill that is must to have. I mean, you cannot really expect that you are just writing the code and pushing it, and there is someone who is actually taking care of this containerization as a DevOps guy. If your expectation is like that sitting in an MNC, fair enough. But the way things are moving, the way the startups are coming up, the expectation is like, some of this thing by yourself. To look into a Docker Compose file, to do the Dockerization, once you have written your code, how are you thinking about deploying and delivering that particular code. So this is something as an expectation should be there in today's ecosystem of work. So as a mid-level programmer, as a mid-level developer, I would suggest you to picking up some of these things, right? Now coming to the AI portion of it, as a beginner level, I told that you learn about AI terminologies. As a mid-level, you should be building with AI, maybe things like LangChain or any other things. You should be building projects, or you are interested in understanding how this agent works. Today, there are a lot of talk about the agents, MCP and all those things, right? So how these things work, are you going to build something with that? So again, this is for a person who is not completely AI focused, maybe a front end, back end, or a full stack developer or a DevOps guy, but should have the AI angle. That is why I'm saying that adapting the AI. But if you're somebody is fully AI focused, maybe you would have done this in the beginner level itself. Like you would have developed something with LangChain, you are already doing some agent development, or you are already exploring MCP. Okay, so there are, depending on the which variety you are falling in, I think I'm just picking up what to focus on part of it, right? Projects to build, you can build projects like a bit complex e-commerce UI, the social networking thing that is talking about, maybe a authentication based social networking where you also manage data. I'm not a very big fan of building clones unless your clones are not clone. I mean, you put certain feature into that clone that the original application doesn't have. So for example, if you are cloning YouTube or cloning Netflix, I would always expect, in my interview, if you're coming, hey, I have cloned Netflix, the first question that I'll be asking is like, what is that extra feature that you have added to that next Netflix clone? If you say, Tapas, I have not, I'll say I'm not interested to learn this project. Okay, fair enough. You have spent great amount of time by understanding that responsive design. You have spent great amount of time understanding, how each of this functionality works. But there is a competition also, isn't it? It is not that a single person alone is going for this interview. There is a competition, and when there is a competition, there is always a differentiator. These are the raw truth, right? I don't want to sugarcoat it, rather putting it as a raw truth, that competition brings differentiator. And if you are differentiated in certain ways, you have an extra edge in the work life, isn't it? So if you have done a clone, you can expect there are 17 other people who also have done the similar clone. Now, if an interviewer has to judge all these 18 people, what is the differentiator? The differentiator could be that you have added an extra feature or two extra feature. You thought about certain use cases and develop it. You have the edge, right? So when you build the project, always think about these edges. Don't go for cloning blindly. That's the answer. Like many time I get that answer, question that should I build clone or should not. You can, but think about additional use cases. Of course, you should keep embracing AI. The way that as a beginner you are doing. This is a time, I think, in the mid level. This is the area like 2 to 3 years. The industry says that people wants to jump like 4 years. By the way, after this live, I don't want people to start thinking about jumping from their organization to go to another organization. Not, no, please don't think about switching, but just to looking into the data, just to tell from that this mid level is bit shaky. This is a time people wants to explore something else, maybe some other companies, maybe getting ready for the interviews and all these things, right? So if you are someone who is also looking into it, or also maybe as a beginner also, I would say that participate in some of this mock interview thing. It really clarifies like where you stand. If you have someone who is very knowledgeable and senior can take your mock interview. I mean, a person who is already interviewing in the organization, if they can take your mock interview and give you the right feedback, that is great. Otherwise, there are mock interview sites. There is something called interviewing.io. There is a Pramp. The AI base. There is Exorcism. Yeah. So there are multiple. Again, I'll give all this site description in the site link in the description of this video. You can take a look. You can go there, register. Wherever you find it free, I think you can try for, if you don't want to go for paid version, you can try for interviewing things. Here, one thing I want to put as a caution, again, don't take me wrong. There are many websites where you can find there is somebody as a mentor, or a person is there for mock interview and things like that. There are aggregated sites. So if you are going for taking for any of the services from any of the people, make sure that you look into the previous testimonials, or what is the experience of people, because there are a lot of news come on the social media saying that there is a person who committed to take the interview or help with so and so thing, this and that service, and paid service people have purchased for 1 hour or 1.5 hours for doing interview, and they were really not happy with the response of the person who was taking the interview, or maybe not available, or maybe taken very less time to do this. So make sure that you go to a place which is more authentic, and a person who is more authentic in terms of dealing with these things, because these are all to motivate you further for your next job, not to demotivate you so that you don't try this again, right? So make sure you do that due diligence at your part. Okay, now what kind of mindset that you should have? All the mindset that you spoke about in the beginner level you should have, plus there are few more mindset you must have. Start documenting your journey as a mid-level programmer. If you are starting as a beginner itself, great. But if you are not starting as a beginner, as a mid-level, please start documenting your journey. Whether in form of blogs, in form of content creation, whether it's on Twitter, it's on X, LinkedIn, wherever it is, document your journey. It is essential, actually, today's world. Then second is learn to review code. As a mid-level programmer, it is expected that you will be doing the review. As a beginner, somebody else was reviewing your code, you learned a lot from the review comments, or maybe you learned that somebody is not able to do great code review, right? Now there is a gap, right? And you don't want to be that someone when you grow to that age, or you grow to that particular experience level, right? So how do you bridge that gap? So learn to do code review, learn to read someone else's code, learn to understand what exactly this particular code is doing. If something you find wrong, ask that person and talk to that person to understand why it is in this way. Learn to review code doesn't only mean to look into the code and finding out the faults. It actually mean to provide comments in such a way that the learning is both ways. You can learn something by reviewing codes where somebody else has written, irrespective of the seniority level of the person. Or you can actually correct by reviewing the code, again, irrespective of the seniority of the person. Both possible. So keep that in mind. And the third point as a mindset for the mid level where you should start to contribute, not just to consume. As a beginner, you consume lot of things to consume because you have to be fundamentally strong, you have to deliver your things, you are learning things, you consume. When in the mid level, it's the time for you to contribute. There is a bigger family around us. It's called developer community, right? Here, everyone is developer. Everyone is, gaining certain energy from each other, giving certain things to each other, right? That's how we all grow, irrespective of wherever we are from. We all grow together as a developer community. So giving back to this community, contributing back to this community is also your responsibility. That's how I think. Okay, if you don't think in that way, nothing. We're still friends. But that's how I think. So please contribute in terms of, it could be an open source contribution. It could be contributing through your content, through your blog, through your maybe teaching, whatever it matters. Please contribute. Don't just consume. Okay. So that's for the mid level. Let's talk about the senior level also quickly before we get back to question and end this live. So what is the goal for senior level? I am the senior already. I have reached that maximum level. I'm right now maybe 5 plus, 6 plus, or 10 plus, whatever it is. I'm senior. Now as a senior level, I think your goal should be how you think and talk strategically. How you solve problem which are like very deep, and how you lead your team very gracefully. I don't know how many seniors are there today listening to me, but if you are there, it is to you that the differentiator of a mid-level person and a senior level person always comes from the fact that how strategically that person think about a solution. Strategically means, what is the strategy means? Is like, if there is a problem in hand and I need to think about a solution, I don't only think about the end solution, but I also consider the peripheral circumstances, my team strength, my customers' expectation. When I have to do this delivery, do I have enough strength? Is this particular tech stack good for me to do this delivery faster? At the same time, can I maintain my code? There are a lot of questions. As a beginner, you are not expected to answer those questions. You are probably follow from someone who have already thought about it and asking you to do something. They are asking you to use RabbitMQ because they have thought about why RabbitMQ. That's what I'm talking about. They're talking about using Kafka because they know why Kafka, right? So strategically, you think, solve the problem very deeply, and then lead gracefully. In a sense, like below you, there is a mid-level developer. There are beginners, freshers, and all. You have to make things work. The final gatekeeper could be you, but there are a lot of other people under you or along with you working to deliver this piece, right? So you have to make sure that the entire ecosystem of the people part also, you may not be a manager, but this people part also is something that's been taken care. People are working with you. If people are not working with you, and you are having tons of experience, you can write world's beautiful code, possibly, I think you are of no use. Actually, you are someone who won't be successful as a senior developer in an organization in the long term, because for a senior person, people matter a lot. Unless it's a role which is like an SME, means a subject matter expert, one thing is given to the person, only that person will deliver, only that person will develop. If it is not that kind of role, it's a role where you deal with people, you have to know how to play with people, you have to know like how to show empathy to people, how to understand their strength, how to build on their, how to negate their weaknesses and make sure that their weaknesses are kind of going away and their strength is increasing from the technical point of view. You have to think about all these things as a senior. It's just not about the technical part of it, right? So what you master basically as a senior person, of course, you master system design, needless to say. What does scale means, what is caching, what are the different aspects of it, about all these queues and all these things. System design basically a good way. You are well versed with security, because as a beginner, even the person is not that much well versed with security, accessibility, all this aspect of it. Mid-level, people start picking up security, accessibility a little bit. But this should come as a standard from a senior, right? That what is the security that I'm talking about? Okay, none of my code should be exposed to XSS. It should be using HTTPS, right? How am I going to integrate OAuth, or I'm going to build one, right? So these are the standards that should come from a senior. A mid-level person adapt it really well, and the beginner may not be understanding too much of it, but they know how to use it, right? So that's how the things are. And again, there are exceptions on each of these things. There might be some beginners who are exceptional well to understand XSS. There might be some senior still struggling with OAuth. There are different kind of people out there, because learnability is for the lifelong. And then somebody is a senior understand the testing pyramid is like, the testing pyramid, right? There's a unit testing, then the integration testing, then there is a E2E testing. So they can know the things like overall, they can look into it overall. They understand the performance part of it on the application. And AI side of it, coming to AI side of it, they are someone, the senior people who can ideate with AI. So was we told, as a beginner, you know the terminologies. As a mid-level person, you already started using it in your program and able to do things. As a senior person, you started ideating with it. It means that your product, you need to take it to the next level, and you can bring AI in advantage to do these things. Either another tool, AI tool, you can get that to get your job done, or you have to build certain things ground up. Both possible. You are the person who is taking the ownership to ideate that, and then there are people to build it, help the team to get this thing delivered, right? So this is what is expectation from the senior person point of view. What kind of projects? So here it gets very tricky. A very senior person, very senior, like maybe 15 years, they might still not be doing many other side hustles or the side project, because the product that they are owning, it itself is so overwhelming that is going to occupy a lot of time, is going to occupy their lot of time to handle things, right? But a person who is transitioning from the mid layer to the senior, they might still have some rooms to experiment out projects, because they want to show their caliber. Like they started thinking from the system design point of view, they started thinking from the security point of view, because they are getting into transitioning into the senior level. For them, it matters to do some kind of project. For example, a scalable e-commerce platform, or a real-time collaboration app like Notion, like we have, right? Or maybe building a feature flag system for the A/B testing tool, or a starter kit for SaaS, something like that. Those kind of project might make sense. There could be other projects also, but these are the things that come in my mind, right? When a person who is transitioning from the mid to senior level can actually think about this kind of project. What are the mindset that the person should have? Of course, be a, what do you say? The right term is multiplier. You know what is multiplier? There are two terms. One is micromanager, another is called multiplier. A micromanager bothers you and himself or herself. For everything they are responsible for, thus you are responsible for. They manage each and everything. A multiplier, what they do, they give you some amount of freedom, because in the past you have proven it, to carry out your work in a great way, and give you certain tips, give you certain knowledge bites, such that it actually multiplies your productivity multifold, and thus it delivers much more faster and things like that. So as a senior, try to be a multiplier, not a micromanager, because history says micromanagers are unsuccessful, okay, at a long run. So don't be that. Always look for mentorship. Means mentor juniors if you're a senior. Influence with a lot of documentation. Even if you use AI, you can use AI as a tool to create those documentation, but always influence with documentations. As a senior, you should not be talking in air. You should be talking through documents, because you are the person who is going to create some amount of culture or influence some of the culture in the company. So make sure that you influence that with the documentation and the architecture. Help people to stay curious, and if possible, start teaching as a senior, because you have wealth of knowledge, and giving knowledge only increases your knowledge. Giving knowledge is not going to make you empty. So if you start teaching, you will see that you will be growing much faster. Even it's a request to a mid-level person also, start teaching. You know, along with your content creation, you can start teaching. Senior level, definitely start teaching. So that's kind of a mindset that I want a senior level to have, or I have seen a good senior person to have. So hope this was helpful. This thing was helpful. If you actually draw a differentiator, it is you keep it in this way. If a beginner person, if you ask that person about the code quality, the person as a free fresher will mostly answer this: it works. That's what he or she bothers about, and that is what is practical. Don't try to nudge too much, don't try to break too much. It works. The person is telling it works is good. If you ask the same question to the mid-level person, code quality, what is the expectation from a mid-level person? Is the mid-level person also going to say it works? No. My expectation from a mid-level person is saying that it works, it is also maintainable, it is also testable. Okay. If you go to a senior level, they'll say that it works, it is maintainable, it is scalable, it is testable, it is documented, it is tested, it is user tested. So you see that each of the level, that answer actually very much differentiated. If you ask about the problem solving, a fresher would follow a tutorial. Somebody asked about the tutorial, hell, I already given the question, or the copy paste fixes. Fair enough, because they are still learning. But the only thing is, like, copy paste. Copy paste is not a crime if you know what you're copying. So copy pasting is fine, but you also need to know what you're copying. For the mid level, the problem solving comes from the fact, like, this person can now debug independently, can ask better question, while doing the problem solving, right? Senior level, a little bit ahead, they can predict and probably prevent a problem. The design pattern they know very well, so that they can actually feed that into, weight into the circle. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind when you have to differentiate from each of this role. I hope it makes sense. Let me go to the question, because I think it's too long that I'm taking, but let me just go over some questions and try to answer. I hope it makes sense to you. And also another thing, I'm going to put all these links into the description of this video, so that you can actually look into it. But if you think that creating a PDF of whatever I told and giving it to you makes sense, uh, post a comment in this video after the video get published, so that I have that comment. I'll make sure I'll get that PDF to you if I'm making. Okay, so let's see what are the questions. So we have. Oh, Kaushal is asking, what is your thought about vibe coding? Have you tried it? How was your experience? Yes, I have tried it. And you know what? Sooner I am going to release a video. No, not because every content creator is doing, but the idea is to try out vibe coding, maybe live or some way, and try to show what is my feeling. Okay. I'm not getting into whether it is bad, what is good. It is good. I will say that I liked it, to be very honest, but I could not progress the way that I wanted to be. It may be because I'm old school, don't know, or it may be because my expectation from the vibe coding is in a different way than it is today, or it could be, in some cases my experience says that I rely more on my experience to touch certain things, change certain things, than being so positive about the vibe, right? So I don't want to, like, put any kind of verdict as such on the vibe coding. If it is working for you and you think that this is something is going to lead you to future jobs, clearing interviews and all these things, yeah, all the best. But if it is something that you probably know the fundamentals and you want to use it to make yourself productive, I think it has a good use case over there. But yeah, I'm going to show something in very near future with vibe coding. Okay, so let me see. So many. Okay, so there is a question from June. Um, hey Tapas, I'm 33 and have been learning web development for 2 months now. Okay, with AI advancing so far, it's still wise to pursue this path. Any recommendations on what take to focus on and learn? Okay, great question. So my response to this would be, it is still worth, because I was talking about it in the beginning. It is still worth, but bring the notion of AI into it, right? And that is why if you are a beginner, you should be getting into at least learning the AI terminologies, trying to understand what are those things, so that anybody is talking to you, or tomorrow you are stepping up. Once you're getting comfortable with the web development thing and you're stepping up and you are getting more interested towards AI, you are already in the path of thinking of it, and you will be able to adapt it much faster, right? AI been advanced a lot in last couple of years, and it is going to be more in next few years. Now you are starting something after 2 years, that means you are covering a path of last 4 years. But if you are starting today, even as a beginner, with the terminologies, understanding what it is, people are talking about different kind of LLMs, where exactly they differ, what is LLMs and all these things. If you are already thinking along with your front end journey, you're already in that particular path. So that would be my recommendation to you. Stick to whatever you're learning. If you're giving something to it, be consistent in giving something to it. It's just that the circle that you thought about for you to learn, you might have to expand it. You might have to put few things, plan few things in it, so that it is much more fulfilled. I hope that answered the question. Okay, for someone just starting with the front end development, again, old record. I think if you were there from the beginning of this live, I already spoke about it. If you're just starting, if you're a beginner to web development, there is no escape from understanding some parts of modern JavaScript. You have to give some time, even if you don't want to understand everything about JavaScript, but some portion. But one funny part about JavaScript is, at least folks who are with 40 days of JavaScript, they probably know, like everything that you are learning today is somehow related to what you have learned 2 days before. So you really cannot ignore one topic completely to start with something else. That is going to haunt you somewhere. But there are options that you can actually focus on only few things and very deep, and other things in the shallow way, but still you cover a good breadth of JavaScript. So that is, if you're starting, surely you give some time. Then definitely pick up the libraries or the framework of your interest, right? If you are looking for React based job, if you know that, okay, there are a lot of openings out with React, and my chances of getting job with React is much higher, you will be definitely learning about React. Where you're learning from is up to you, but you will be learning from, will be learning React. And I told some of the paths, like doing some of the projects, being active on the LinkedIn or any other such platform, talking to your journey. I think those are the things that what you should be doing, and be consistent, guys. So this is one point. It's like, it is not about doing it for a day, a week, a month. You got to be consistent of what you are doing, right? Then only you see the result. It's as simple as that. Even with AI, I mean it's not going to change everything drastically for you, especially you, not for the world. Okay, let's keep world aside for a moment. You, in one day it's not going to change, right? You will be learning the terminologies, then you will be understanding, oh, okay, this is what probably this LLM means. This LLM is doing this one. Let me just try this thing in this way. Okay, I can do this API integration for this, and I can build something of my own in this way. There also you have a journey. There also you have a step-by-step journey. You have to be consistent to do it. So consistency matters, right? Okay. Okay, we go to the web designer and developer kind of role. So it is hard getting a Uh, okay, I didn't understand the question, because you are mixing the web designer and the web developer role. I'll tell you my own learning. I've been hiring both designer and the developer. Every year probably. I haven't found someone who is a very good designer is a good developer, or other way. The person is a very good developer and also a very good designer. Today, any UI developer should have some sense of design, some design sense. But it is not I feel it is probably not practical for that person to be very good designer. There could be some exceptions. I'm not disagreeing. There should be exceptions, but those are real exceptions. Most of the people out there, if they're developer, they're probably not very focused on designer. If they're designer, they're not very focused on the development side of it. But if you have someone who is a good developer, having some design sense, they can tell, okay, this color probably not going to work. This font is not readable. This is not accessible. This placement is not good. I think that is a very good win as a developer, and it's a very good age. I was talking about age, right, some time back. That's what probably you should focus on. Now, otherwise, if you are designer inclined, and now you know to code Tailwind CSS, you can take care of the styling part of it. HTML, you probably don't know about JavaScript, but you are someone who can design on Figma, and from there you can very quickly generate the HTML, CSS using the respective tool. You again have an edge. So don't try to put leg on both. Try to put a firm leg on one thing, but at the same time maybe putting a this finger so something else, so that you have that extra edge. That's what I'll say. And debugging HTML and CSS, yes, you got to know, of course. DSA or dev, what's the confusion? I didn't understand the question actually. Ricky, if you can ask that question. DSA करता हूँ तो dev नहीं होता, dev नहीं होता तो DSA नहीं होता. How do you differentiate DSA from dev? I mean, I think this is a problem with the thought process than DSA or dev. I don't think they are separated. They are integrated. So if you are a developer, irrespective you are a front-end developer, back-end developer, C++ developer, JavaScript developer, Rust developer, you have to have some understanding of data structure and algorithm, isn't it? I mean, if you have a very strong point to deny it, we both can go for a debate someday. But today is almost 1.5 hours. But quickly to talk about it is like, I say this is like, if you are building an application, you are actually dealing with the data. So if you don't know how to structure the data based on your use case, you are probably building an application with lot of performance impact, or maybe the data loss at some point in time, or maybe some other error. Now you have to really know how to structure the data, whether you need this way to put the data because this is your use case, or you need to use that particular thing for the data because this is the use case. So that is where you need to know some amount of data structure. And then you will be, from the problem solving, logic building, you will be building use cases. So you have to build algorithm, as simple as you're building a search, you're building a filter. These are all algorithms, isn't it? So how are you differentiating DSA from dev? Now, if you're talking about lead code, that's different. If you're talking about a platform where you can go and practice DSA, that is different. Okay. But learning DSA, making use of DSA in your dev is something integral part of it, is implicit. Now to make that much more better for you, like probably all possible data structure, you can know from the tools, but do you know, or can you map a data structure to a valid use case of it? And have you built that use case? Because you are also a developer, have you built that use case? That is what matters, I think, in my opinion. I am not saying that doing lead code is good, bad, whatever. Lead code is great platform, and I've seen a lot of people actually enjoying using this platform. They feel really they celebrate their win by going from one stage to another stage, because this is what is giving back that particular motivation that they're looking for. If that motivation you're looking for, yeah, please use it. You have to give the time. But if that is not the motivation you're looking for, least you have to know the commonly used data structure for the use case that you have in hand, and you need to know how you map that data structure usage to the use case that you have. Same thing for the algorithm as well. Okay. Let me see if could you tell us how to learn to get a big tech company job by competitive programming like Google, Meta? Okay, so I have not worked on Google. I have not worked in Meta. I have not worked in any of these companies. So I don't know really like what exactly, I don't have a real life experience on um, attending their interviews, to be very honest. So that's where there are many people who have already given interviews in Google. I'll be very truthful to you, and given interviews to Meta. They will be the right person to tell you like what is the interview pattern and how to crack the interviews over there. But tomorrow, if I have to sit for any of these interview rounds as a developer, I probably know like what are the things I will be preparing for. And again, I'll be coming to DSA because many of my friends who are there who take interviews, they talk about DSA a lot because that's something they value a lot. Second thing that they look for is like how are you solving a problem. They give you the use cases and they ask you to solve this problem in front of that in front of them, and try and tell you to kind of walk through the code, like why you develop certain things, then ask you like, don't you think there will be a performance problem, or how are you going to test this particular portion of it. If I have to bring the A/B testing, how are you going to integrate all these things. So they ask those kind of questions of the flow. So I would be rather prepared for that, but I cannot give you the answer directly like what kind of question that they might ask. Okay, so I think okay, there's one more good question that Vandana asked. It's like all these transitions from junior to senior request time to learn system design and all those stuff along the daily task of coding job. Yes, it does. And there is both positive and the negative side of it. It depends how you are looking into it. So let's take the transition from beginner to mid level. So in the beginner, the expectation is like you get the job done, right? You are learning, but you are getting the job done. You are probably not participating in the code review and all these things. But if you think, or if you attach your promotion, the day of promotion, from your beginner to senior, beginner to mid level, I think you'll be making a mistake. The day 11th May, if you're getting promoted from software engineer to senior software engineer, it is not that day you are becoming a mid level or senior level programmer from a beginner or a mid level programmer. You are in the transition way before that. That's what the mindset should be. So today, if you are not doing the code review or reading the code, and if you know it's an expectation as a mid-level developer from you to review the code, you will cultivate that habit way before. And that applies to everything required for you to go to that level. You have to give that time. Everybody has 24 hours. Everybody needs to be working in that 24 hours, need to prioritize their personal time and prioritize their aspirations, goals, need to clearly understand. That is what this particular live is also about. Need to clearly understand what exactly they are for them next, so that they can actually chase, a few things from that. So there is no other shortcut from that. You have to plan it, and you have to plan it quite ahead when you are actually planning to go to the next level. Okay, so I spoke a lot for last 1.5 hours. I would like to thank each of you who are there in this particular live. Would love to know if it was useful to you, and would love to know if you want me to do live like this often. I'm a bit lazy person, also having a lot of other commitments in my life. I have, of course, personal life. Everybody has. I have a company to run. I have these YouTube videos to make and many other things. But I want to know if it is really helpful to you. If it is helpful, please let me know. I'm going to bring this live, or what are the topics that you think will be useful to you. I know whatever I learn, whatever I know, I am going to bring it in front of you. That's the thing. So stay well, guys. And again, please post a comment once this live end on the video. If you are looking for a PDF of everything that we have discussed over here, I'll make sure that PDF reaches to you in a few days. So with that, thank you very much. Again, good day, good evening, good night to all of you. Stay well. We'll be coming back again. And if you're not following 40 days of JavaScript and still want to learn front end, please look into 40 days of JavaScript, putting a lot of effort over there to teach you the right way of doing JavaScript in a hands-on and the fundamental way. See you in the other side. Thank you. Bye-bye.